In our headlines on this Wednesday, September 3rd. The leaders of China, Russia and North Korea stand side by side in the Chinese capital city to mark Beijing's Victory Day parade earlier on this Wednesday in a symbolic show of solidarity. And North Korea's Kim Jong-un is accompanied by his daughter Kim Joo-ae in Beijing, renewing rampant speculation about a potential rise to power in the regime. Meanwhile, South Korea's gross domestic product expands 0.7% on quarter during the April to June period, driven by shipments overseas and spending at home. We start in Beijing, where Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted Russia's Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un to observe an elaborate show of might to mark the end of World War II. Our Shin Ha-young starts us off.
A military parade marking China's 80th Victory Day anniversary became the stage for the leaders of North Korea, China, and Russia to appear together for the first time in 66 years. The 70-minute-long celebration kicked off on Wednesday at 9 a.m. local time in Tiananmen Square, Beijing. About an hour before the official ceremony, around 25 world leaders began arriving at the venue, walking down a red carpet. Chinese President Xi Jinping greeted them, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un entering just before Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was the last to arrive. Symbolic moments of solidarity among Pyongyang, Beijing, and Moscow continued throughout the event. With Xi in the center, Kim on his left, and Putin on his right, the three leaders walked up to the rostrum side by side, conversing with smiles. China marks September 3, 1945 as the day of its victory over Japan and the end of World War II. That's the day after Japan signed its unconditional surrender to China and the other allies.
History warns us that the destiny of humankind is closely interconnected. Only when nations and peoples treat each other as equals, live together in harmony, and support one another can we safeguard common security and eliminate the root causes of war. We must not allow the tragedies of history to repeat themselves.
During the military parade, China showcased strategic weapons for the first time, including the F-97 unmanned combat aircraft and the DF-61 intercontinental ballistic missile, reportedly an upgrade from the DF-41. A record 40,000 people took part in the parade, with 45 military units also marching through Tiananmen Square to display their strength. Meanwhile, from South Korea, National Assembly Speaker Woo Won-sik attended the parade. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Now, as mentioned in that report, Kim Jong-un is in Beijing, and his presence alongside his Chinese host and Russian counterpart has been making headlines. Our foreign affairs correspondent Oh Seong covers this show of solidarity, as well as the implications of his daughter's presence in Beijing.
Attending China's Victory Day parade, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un appeared to assert North Korea's nuclear statehood, while signaling that his daughter is being groomed as his successor. On Wednesday, Kim appeared alongside Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Tiananmen Square. Amid geopolitical tensions, the gathering of leaders from the three sides was a display of unity last seen 66 years ago in the Cold War era.
It seems intended to demonstrate the strengthening of North Korea and China's socialist solidarity as a form of counterbalance to the South Korea-US-Japan trilateral framework. Another aspect for Chairman Kim is to show he plays a key role within the North Korea-China-Russia alignment.
Throughout the parade, the North Korean and Russian leaders constantly sat and stood on either side of Xi Jinping. For Kim Jong-un, the optics could portray North Korea as part of a trio of nuclear powers, as he continues to seek recognition of Pyongyang as a nuclear state. The occasion also marks Kim's first participation in a gathering of dozens of world leaders, a notable departure from the one-on-one summits that have defined this diplomacy so far. Russian outlet TASS reported that Kim and Putin would hold a bilateral summit on the sidelines.
Since the new treaty between North Korea and Russia, troop deployments for Moscow's war with Ukraine and compensation have been exchanged. If Kim meets Putin again during this 80th anniversary, it's possible they will discuss further compensation, possible the end of war negotiations, and various U.S.-North Korea issues.
However, with Beijing, Moscow and Pyongyang pursuing different strategic priorities, analysts believe a formal trilateral summit beyond a photo session is highly unlikely.
Before a summit takes place, the agenda, the accompanying officials, and their positions on how the international community will respond must be closely aligned. Yet, their coalition can be likened to being in the same bed with different dreams. Also, there hasn't been enough time for preparations in terms of the agenda and lineup.
Kim arrived in Beijing on Tuesday by special train in his first visit in 6 years. What was more striking upon arrival was the unexpected appearance of Kim's daughter Kim Joo-ae. She was seen standing directly behind her father as he was greeted by high-level Chinese officials.
When Kim Jong-un turned 8 years old, his father tapped him as his successor. However, as he was not given sufficient diplomatic training, he remained a leader of an isolated state until he participated in the summits with China, South Korea, and the United States in 2018. Determined not to pass down this unfortunate experience to his daughter, Kim Jong-un seems to have brought her to China, firmly resolved to introduce her early onto the diplomatic stage and provide her with systematic training.
The implications for inter-Korean and US-North Korea diplomacy remain uncertain. Observers say Kim might consult Xi about a potential summit with US President Donald Trump. Still, Seoul officials have cautioned against premature optimism, saying that Pyongyang has shown no signs of abandoning its nuclear program. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump took to his social media platform to share his thoughts on the high-profile gathering in the Chinese capital city. Here's our Yoon-jin.
U.S. President Donald Trump took to social media to respond to a show of solidarity between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping during the 80th anniversary Victory Day parade in Beijing on Wednesday morning. In his post, Trump said the U.S. had given, quote, a massive amount of support and blood to China to help it secure its freedom, while also pondering whether Xi would mention that in the meeting. Trump signed off by sending his warmest regards to Putin and Kim as they, quote, conspire against the United States. President Trump has dismissed any concerns over the close ties being showcased by Russia, China, and North Korea. Trump told reporters in the Oval Office on Tuesday that he had a good relationship with President Xi and that China, quote, needs us more than we need them, rejecting suggestions that the three-way unity between Putin, Xi, and Kim would pose any challenge. Separately, Trump told the Scott Jennings radio show that America has, quote, the most powerful military forces in the world, and that military forces would not be used against the U.S. Meanwhile, President Trump on Tuesday also dismissed rumors concerning his health, after rumors swirled on social media when Trump hadn't been seen publicly since his cabinet meeting last Wednesday and had a clear weekend schedule. When asked by a reporter, Trump said he was busy over the Labor Day weekend, giving media interviews and visiting his Virginia golf course, calling the speculation fake news, stating that he was very active.
Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend.
The White House has said Trump was diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, which is a fairly common condition for older adults. And as for the bruising on his hand, the press secretary said it's from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which Trump takes regularly to reduce the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung has vowed support for small and medium-sized manufacturers, highlighting the essential role of the industry as a whole for economic growth. Do take a listen.
제조업들이 고용에 있어서 매우 큰 역할을 하고 있기 때문에 우리 강소기업들 또 역량 있는 제조업들이 성장 발전해야 되는데 우리 정부로서도 매우 관심을 많이 가지고 있고 또 지원할 수 있도록 노력하고 있습니다.
Speaking at a semiconductor equipment manufacturing company in the city of Ansan on this Wednesday, he also noted that South Korea faces the dual task of recovery and growth and promised rapid recovery to enhance livelihoods. And as we reported back on Tuesday, President Jae-myung will become the first South Korean leader to preside over a United Nations Security Council meeting as South Korea assumes the presidency of the 15-member body this month. Seoul's foreign ministry says the president will chair an open debate on Wednesday, September 24th in New York on the implications of AI on peace and stability. Ahead of this event on September 9th, Seoul will convene a separate debate on UN peace operations, as this month the Council also deliberates on the conflicts in the Middle East. Seoul plans to further highlight women, peace and security, as well as the link between climate and conflict. In other news, the South Korean economy expanded 0.7% on quarter in the second quarter of this year, higher than previous projections. Our correspondent Moon Ji-young reports.
South Korea's economy grew faster than earlier estimated in the second quarter, driven by robust exports and improved private consumption. Preliminary data released by the Bank of Korea on Wednesday revealed that the nation's real gross domestic product, a key economic indicator, grew by 0.7% quarter-on-quarter in the April to June period this year. This revised figure marks an improvement of 0.1 percentage point from the advanced estimate made in July. The growth also represents a significant rebound from a contraction experienced in the first quarter. Last week, the central bank upgraded its economic growth forecast for this year to 0.9%, up from its previous projection of 0.8%.
If the economy grows around 0.6% on quarter in the second half, we will be able to achieve 0.9% annual growth.
Breaking down the growth drivers, private spending saw a 0.5% increase, largely due to higher spending on automobiles and health services. Government expenditure also climbed 1.2%, boosted by increased healthcare benefits. However, construction investment contracted, primarily driven by a decrease in civil engineering projects. Facilities investment also declined due to reduced demand for ships and semiconductor manufacturing equipment. In terms of trade, exports surged by 4.5%, spurred by strong global demand for semiconductors and petroleum and chemical products. Imports were also up by 4.2%.
We expect domestic demand to continue its modest recovery, led by the government's supplementary budget execution and better consumer sentiment. However, while exports showed a favorable trend in July and August, we anticipate growth to gradually slow as the impact of U.S. tariff impositions expands.
Meanwhile, the country's gross national income saw a 2% increase, with real GNI growing by 1%. This was largely due to improved terms of trade, which led to a reduction in real trade losses. Moon Ji-young, Arirang News.
And the Lee Jae-myung administration has announced a framework of financial assistance to aid exporters seeking to navigate higher U.S. tariffs. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon has details.
The South Korean government is expanding its financial support to companies hit by U.S. tariffs. At an economic ministerial meeting on Wednesday, officials announced a comprehensive support package for these companies, including 13.6 trillion won, or about 10 billion US dollars in emergency management funds. A record 270 trillion won, or $193 billion in trade insurance and credit, will also be available to support exporters.
The real race toward economic recovery starts now. The government will sprint without rest. We will respond flawlessly to global trade risks, while mobilizing all policy capabilities to push forward with projects to lead the AI and super innovation economy.
In next year's budget proposal, trade issues and export support has been increased to 4.3 trillion won, or just over $3 billion. For sectors affected by tariffs, interest rates on operation funds will be cut further and lending limits will be raised tenfold. Hard-hit industries like steel and aluminum will receive specialized support, including 570 billion won, or just over $400 million in dedicated financing and emergency allocated tariffs on core raw materials. The Industry Ministry will spearhead the government's on-the-ground response, coordinating across 12 ministries.
Today, we have prepared tangible support measures with 12 ministries, based on 3 principles. First, mobilizing all available policy tools. Second, an all-out, whole of government response. And third, a focus on the needs of companies.
This support is critical for the nation's small and medium-sized enterprises as well. A recent government survey found that nearly 63% of these companies expect the tariffs to negatively impact their exports.
Export-oriented SMEs expressed strong on-the-ground need for support with logistics costs, policy funds, detailed information, and export market diversification. Reflecting these voices, we have prepared support measures for SMEs in response to the U.S. reciprocal tariffs.
Meanwhile, with the Chuseok holiday approaching, the government also announced plans to ease the burden on households. The Deputy Prime Minister stated that Chuseok livelihood stability measures will be announced soon. Additionally, a second round of livelihood recovery consumption coupons will be distributed starting from September 22nd. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
On the political front, Won Min-kyung, the second nominee for Minister of Gender Equality and Family under the Lee Jae-myung administration, faced a confirmation hearing on this Wednesday. In her testimony today, she pledged to address the gender wage gap and gender-based violence. Won's nomination follows the withdrawal of the previous candidate Kang Sun-woo, who stepped down following rampant allegations of workplace abuse. Seoul Fashion Week is back, and the catwalk this time around has been extended across the capital city. Our Park Hyo-bin had a glimpse.
Fashion, stars, and a runway by the palace walls. Seoul Fashion Week is back for its 2026 spring-summer season, offering a glimpse of the trends that will shape styles in the coming year. Marking its 25th anniversary, this year's event goes beyond the traditional venue at Dongdaemun Design Plaza, spreading across the entire city of Seoul. And the week began right here along the stone walls of Deoksugung Palace with a striking opening show by Anderson Bell.
I've always followed Anderson Bell, and since the show is held here along the Deoksugung Palace walls, I was really excited to come.
I've been attending the event for about 3 or 4 years now. I didn't want to miss it this time either. The runway today is what I'm looking forward to most, especially because it's a brand I've always liked.
Before the runway began, the area around the palace was already filled with stars and fans alike. On the photo wall being names like Tomorrow by Together's Hyunin Kai, Hearts to Hearts Ian and Tsiu, and Ive's Kaeul drew the crowds. Once the opening runway show kicked off, Anderson Bell unveiled its 2026 spring-summer collection under the theme Surfed Clash. The pieces highlighted unexpected color matches, layered silhouettes that looked effortless yet calculated, and deconstructed details with a worn-in edge. And Deoksugung Palace is not the only iconic location to serve as a backdrop. Throughout the week, 27 Korean designer brands take turns presenting their collections at Seoul landmarks, including the Oil Tank Culture Park, Heungcheonsa Temple, and of course, Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Adding a global touch, Berlin Fashion Week also joined Seoul Fashion Week for the first time, showcasing its official Berlin showroom.
The event runs until this Sunday, turning Seoul into a global fashion city. Park Hyo-bin, Arirang News.
And a world-renowned exhibition platform has opened its first Asian showcase right here in Seoul. Our Pyun Ye-young was there.
Design Miami has landed in Asia for the very first time, opening its Seoul edition to shine a spotlight on Korean designers who have long played a role in connecting the nation's culture with the world. Titled Illuminated, a spotlight on Korean design, the exhibition is Design Miami's first in-situ endeavor. From stunning glass decorative pieces to traditional Korean accessories made from cow intestines, the exhibition shows Korean designers who have become renowned names in global design spheres.
Design Miami is a globally renowned exhibition platform. By hosting such a prestigious design platform here in Seoul, the first in Asia, we wanted to create an opportunity for our city to expand and step onto the world stage through design.
Design Miami in Situ showcases over 170 pieces by 71 artists. From traditional crafts to contemporary concepts, every piece highlights the creativity of Korean design. Among the standout works are pieces deeply rooted in Korea's culture and traditions. Pagwamin's bench, made from a massive stone slab, evokes a surreal, dreamlike effect. Lee Jong-un reinterprets hanji, traditional Korean paper, by applying it to wooden lattice frames, transforming the technique into a sculptural paper sofa. This particular piece was also a finalist for the prestigious Loewe Foundation Craft Prize. The venue itself adds another layer of meaning. Dongdaemun Design Plaza, or DDP, is a cultural landmark in Seoul and home to many artistic events like Seoul Fashion Week. DDP was designed by the late architect Zaha Hadid, Design Miami's very first designer of the year back in 2005, so the choice of the venue brings Design Miami's story full circle.
Korean culture is making waves on the global stage right now. Likewise, through this Design Miami Seoul exhibition, we hope to introduce many people to Korean design and design art. The exhibition is open free of charge, so we encourage the public to come and experience the works of these renowned designers firsthand.
Alongside the exhibition, Design Miami also hosted design talks on Tuesday to foster dialogue on Korean design. Design Miami Seoul runs through September 14th, 2025 at Dongdaemun Design Plaza. 변예영, Arirang News.
Netflix sensation KPop Demon Hunters has become the most watched title on the platform, according to the streaming service. The animation has been streamed over 266 million times, making it the top content of all time on Netflix. In fact, it has surpassed Squid Game Season 1, which previously held the top spot in the show category. Meanwhile, its original soundtrack, Golden, continues to dominate the US Billboard Hot 100 chart, holding the #1 spot for the third straight week.
The night heat has eased off as we enter September, but the sun shines strongly in the middle of the day. Heat wave advisors are still in place in the southern parts of the country and Jeju Island today. The temperatures rose further in the western regions under the influence of the easterly wind. On the other side of the country, the east coast stayed relatively cooler at below 30 degrees Celsius. Until tonight, showers will pass throughout the southern parts of Gyeonggi-do province and southern parts of the Chungcheong-do provinces. The expected precipitation is as little as 5 millimeters to as much as 60 millimeters. There will be rain in the central regions and showers in the south tomorrow. Tomorrow, Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Daegu will start off at 24 degrees. Highs will only rise to 29 degrees in Seoul and Gyeongju, Chuncheon 27 degrees. Frequent showers are expected this week and rain is forecast again on Saturday afternoon. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, and today we touch upon the local economy. Thank you for now.